Good morning and welcome back to Business Math class. If you remember, we were doing Chapter 4, Section 2 in our last class section, and we have two examples from the class notes left to do. To begin with, are there any questions on the homework that we did that don't include those two questions or those two examples? How'd the homework go? Allison, how'd the homework go?
Just fine.
Just fine. What about you, Holly? Any questions? Okay. Then what we're going to do is example 2 on the class notes for section 4.2.
Can you go over question 25?
Okay, Keith, just a second. Question 25, that's going to be on page 107. Let me find it. Right. It says on question 25, after a 30-20 trade discount, a department store paid $152 for a lawnmower. What was the list price? So pretend like you're the owner of the lawnmower store. You've purchased for $152 a lawnmower, and we want to know, with your trade discounts, it cost $152. What was the original list price? So we're going to do, are we going to do this one old change new? Okay. And we know that we're always going to have the same original setup. We're going to put 100 under old. We know that the new price, the price that you actually paid for the lawnmower, is $152. And we're actually know that we're looking for old, which would be the original or the list price. We need to get some things going over there in the column for percent. We know that we had a 30-20 trade discount. Knowing that I had a 30/20 trade discount, I can come up with the net cost equivalent, which would be the number that goes here under new, under the percent column, by taking 0.7 times 0.8. I came up with those numbers because 100 minus 30 is 70. Change it to a decimal from 70% to 0.7. 20% discount is 100 minus 20 is 80%. Change that to a 0.8. 0.7 times 0.8 equal what? 0.56. So 0.56 is the net cost equivalent. No one's asking, but if we needed the single discount equivalent, I could take 1 minus 0.56. This is the net cost equivalent. And I could come up with a single discount equivalent if I needed to. Would that be 0.44? Which is the number that actually goes right here. Now I'm going to ignore the middle line. I don't actually need it to come up with the information that I was asked for. I'm going to set up a proportion. I don't need that point there, actually, do I? I need to keep these as percentages. So my proportion that I'm going to set up, Keith, do you see it now?
Yeah, I see it.
Is 100 over 56 equal x over 152. I don't have my calculator out of my bag today, but we're going to take 100 times 152 equal 56x, divide by 56. What did we come up with as the original list price? Keith, did that answer your question? Came out right? Good. Part of that is knowing the vocabulary. When you know what your net cost is, that is new dollars. And when you're looking for list price, you're looking for old dollars, original amount. Getting it set up right on the old change new pattern. Another question on the homework? Okay, move that one out of the way. We have two situations happening here. We've got Company A, who has an item for $405, and Company B having the same item for $625. But Company B is going to give you a trade discount of 20/10. We want to know what additional discount Company B must offer in order to match the discount price of Company A. So here's our situation. Come up here to the top of my paper. You get this brochure, and Company A has the item for $405. Company B, a different company, a competitor, has an item, same item, $625, but they're going to give you trade discounts. They're going to give you a trade discount of 20/10. There could be lots of reasons why you just wouldn't go ahead and buy it from Company A. Maybe you've had some shipping problems with them before. Maybe they don't always deliver. So there's reasons that you might want to deal with one company instead of another one. But obviously you want to buy your merchandise at the least possible price to put it in your store. So we actually know that from Company A we can buy it for $405. To begin with, what I need to know is what's my current net cost with Company B. Does that make sense? We need to find out what it would cost us if we bought it from Company B. So we actually know it would cost us $405 from Company A. From Company B, we're going to set up an old change new. We're going to put percents on one side, dollars on the other, 100 here, setting up with the original pattern. We know that the original list price is the $625. We actually want to know what the new dollar amount is going to be. What is the net cost equivalent? How do I find the net cost equivalent? What number is going to go right here under percent and new?
72.
How'd you come up with that number?
2010.
2010, so you took 0.8 times 0.9, and you end up with 72%. Great. We can draw a line and ignore the middle. We don't need to know anything about the change. We're just asked to come up with what price we're dealing with Company B. Let's put an X right there. 100 is to 72, proportionally the same as 625 is to X. Solve for X. What's the $450? Company A is saying, to begin with, $405 from us. Company B is saying a $625 with a 2010 discount. That's $450. You really like dealing with Company B. Question is, what additional discount are they going to have to give you in order to meet the price of Company A? So we're going to do a second old, change, new problem. We're going to go old, change, new. We've got percents over here. We've got dollars over here. What we want to do is find out if we have $450 now with Company B, what kind of a change it would take to come up with $405. The number we're looking for is the percent of change or the additional discount amount. We need to do some further calculations before we can set up our proportion. What do we have to do next? Anyone got an idea?
Figure out what to change from 450 to 405.
Thank you. Figure out the change, figure out the amount of money to begin with they need to discount. They need to come down how many more dollars?
45.
They need to come down $45. So we make that calculation and put in $45 right there. Then I can find the percent of change that is if I know what the amount in money that change is. I'm going to this time ignore the bottom line. I don't need it. What I need to know is the percent of change or the percent of discount that that additional $45 represents. So here we go. The proportion is 100 is to X as 450 is to 45. I can do this proportion any way I want. When I've got two of the lines, I can ignore a third one. It doesn't matter which one I ignore, and set up a proportion. I do cross products. What do I end up as the amount of discount I need? I need an additional 10% discount in order to do business with Company B. If not, I'm going to turn my business over to the original Company A, $405.
So that 10% goes onto the change?
It would be an additional change, right. So the current discount, if you remember at the beginning here, was a 20-10, and what I would need is a 20-10-10 in order to do business with them. So if you were the owner of the business and you were dealing with a manufacturer's rep, you'd say, I need an additional 10% discount before I can do business with you. If not, I can buy this product someplace for less money. And it is the additional discount necessary.
And so on the new, you put 90, or would you put
On the new, it would be 90. And actually, no one's asking you that question. That would answer the question. The new price would be what percent of the discounted price, and it would be 90%. If this is 10, 90% would be the percent the 405 is of the 450. We talked early that the difference between the part you pay and the part you change is a difficult concept, and that's a perfect example of the amount you save would be 10%, the amount you pay would be the 90% of that price. Sounds like a simple concept, but it really does, when you start cranking numbers, get confusing as to where they go in old, change, new. Okay, second problem here then, if there's no questions on that. These will be problems when you're doing your homework, like 31 and 33, I think. Okay, next problem. I'm not very clever when I make up company names. This one's Acme and Beta. I have two companies. Acme has a list price for an item. We don't know what these items are, of $1,050, and they're offering you a 20/5 discount. New company, Beta, representative is also coming and seeing you, and they're offering you the same item with a trade discount of 10/10. We want to know whose price is cheaper to begin with, and then we want to know what do we have to have for one company to meet the other company's discount. So we're going to, if you see along the bottom of that sheet, we have many things we're doing. First, we're calculating Acme all by itself and finding out what the Acme list price discounts to with a 20/5 discount, and we need to know what their net cost is going to be. Then we want the net cost from Beta. When we get done, we're going to find out what it would take to make those two equal competitors. I'm going to switch to the sheet that I've already worked out. Are you okay? Are you working? Let's see if I can't get this up and on the screen. We actually have an old change new set up for Acme, set up with 100 with old. On the dollar side of Acme, we're going to input $1,050. We're going to calculate the net cost equivalent of 76% and come up with the net price from Acme of $798. We're going to do exactly the same thing for Beta. We're going to set up an old change new with 100. We're going to start with their list price of $10.75, calculate the discount of 0.9 times 0.9 is 81%, come up with the list price, the net cost from Beta of $870.75. Is that all right? Both companies have offered discounts. We would rather do business with Beta, but their price is higher. So what we're going to do then, when we do the comparison of the two, of Beta versus Acme, is we're going to say we're at 870.95 or 75. I need you to come down to 798. Once again, we're going to put 100 here, put our X under the percent of change, figure out that they need to come down $72.75. Set it up as a proportion and cross multiply. That percent would need to be an 8.36 discount. So we're probably going to ask for another, what, 9%?
You rounded it up.
If you were dealing with someone, you'd probably say I'd need another 9% before I'd do it. Because if we rounded it down to 8, we would not meet their price. It'd cost us more.
I was asking why you rounded it up to 3.6.
What was the answer when you did it?
8.354.
Did you get 8.354? Oh, okay.
35486. I mean, it works out.
Okay.
If you go out even further.
And you're
It's not
saying
that big a deal.
8.35 would have been the right number. Probably was late at night when I was sitting on my chair punching those buttons. 8.35. They tell me it's 8.35. Yes. Is that all right? Ready to move on? There's just a couple of questions there in the homework. I think that's problem 33 that deals with that one, and it works very much like these last two examples. Great. Okay. 4.3. Lots of new vocabulary. I warn you ahead of time, this is sort of an area that people go, ooh, this is tedious and kind of maybe not as intriguing as interesting as some of the other topics that we cover. But you have got to consider yourself a business owner. You have had manufacturers' reps come to you and you've decided to buy merchandise to put in your store. You are the owner. This is a small store. You are also the bookkeeper. You're everything in this store, okay? But definitely when we think about paying bills, we're the one that's in charge, and we want to save as much money as we possibly can on any of the merchandise that we put on the floor. Likewise, a manufacturer, after they've sold you this merchandise and delivered it, what's the most important thing they want to do so they can stay in business? They want to get paid. Absolutely right. They want to get paid. We have talked so far about trade discounts. It's actually buying at less than list price so that you can put merchandise on the floor and sell it. A second kind of a discount is called a cash discount, not to be confused with a trade discount. You've received the invoice for the merchandise, and hopefully the merchandise is coming. You get an invoice, and you're expected to pay it. You're expected to pay it by a certain date. What the manufacturer would like to do is encourage you to pay it quickly so they get their money and can also stay in business. If you pay quickly, there is a trend for businesses to give you a cash discount for paying when you receive an invoice. Okay, so trade discounts are given. We're going to go back over here, top of this page. It says, trade discounts are given to buyers when they are buying merchandise to put it in a store. Cash discounts are given to buyers as an incentive for prompt payment. There are many rules, and they're kind of tedious, associated with the different methods of dating. We're going to look at 4 major types. I'm going to again tell it. The reason that we have to deal with all of these is that we're going to be getting invoices from a great many suppliers, and every supplier might use something different. Saying, but in my business, what would I, when we talked about doing payroll, we said, gosh, if you're going to pay weekly, the only chart you would need on your desk for payroll would be the weekly one. We did all sorts of them, but if you were actually in business, you'd only be using one of those charts. In this particular case, however, if you're in business, you're going to be receiving invoices from many different suppliers, And they're going to use all of these different dating methods, and you're going to need to know how to recognize all of them. Invoice comes to your desk, and you're looking at paying it. Ordinary dating, end of month dating, receipt of goods dating, and extra dating. We're going to deal with all of those, and you're going to need to know how to handle the discount in each case, okay? So we're going to handle each one of those 4 separately. So here we go. Ordinary dating. You got your sheets? Trying to get this all on the screen. Says the discount date, in other words, you're going to be given a discount. The discount date and the date due are taken from the invoice date. Not when you receive the merchandise, not when you ordered the merchandise, but actually the date the invoice is made. So a manufacturer's rep came to you, he emailed something back to the office, they got the shipment in process, the office where the supplier is gets an invoice printed, they mail it to you. They offer you a cash discount. The discount begins at the date of the invoice, okay? If the net payment period is not given, the net payment due is assumed to be 20 days beyond that period where the discount ends. Let's look it over. An invoice in the amount of $3,562 comes to your desk, okay? You are the business owner. The terms of the invoice, oh my goodness, they look just exactly like trade discounts. How are we going to recognize these as cash discounts? Where are we going to find them? On an invoice. And it's read differently. This one says 3/10. Oh, don't you love the confusion? That means a 3% discount for 10 days from the invoice date. So 3/10 in this particular case, when I'm saying cash discount, I know, I told you, means a 3% discount for 10 days. It does not mean a 3% discount followed by a 10% discount. So although it looks the same, you're going to have to know whether you're dealing with trade discounts or cash discounts to understand the meaning of those, okay? It also, and that's 10 days in ordinary dating from the invoice date. That N means the net is due 30 days, and the 30 days is from the invoice date, not from the end of the discount period. Okay, the invoice date is June 24th. Your goods are received on July 1st. Guess what? No one cares when you get the goods with ordinary dating. That's thrown in to confuse you. What we know is you received an invoice on June 24th. You get a 10-day period from June 24th to take a 3% discount. And if not, 30 days from the date the invoice is received, the money is due. Which brings us to the pink sheet that I gave you before class started. It's called a table of days. There's one in your book. There'll be one of these attached to the back of the next test. There'll be one of these attached to the final. I have extra ones of these. You're going to probably write all over them. We're also going to do these number lines that have to do with dates. So let me get started here. What was the invoice date? Of June 24th. You need to take your table of days, and I'm going to be flipping things back and forth for a minute here. You need to find June at the top of this column and come down till it intersects with the 24th on the side and find out what day of the year June 24th is. I'm at June and I'm at 24, and it comes down and says that's day 175. Does everyone see where I'm coming up with day 175? Okay. So what I'm going to do then is put day 175 right there. That's where I start counting on my number line. Okay. What my invoice says is I get a 3% discount for 10 days. Is that all right? Looks very much like the number line that we used for profitability, doesn't it? Kind of go from left to right. So this is day 75. Day 75 is day 0. 10 days later, the discount ends. What day is 10 days after day 175? Day 185. And this is when the discount ends. Is that all right? So I need to go back to my table of days. This time I'm going to find day. You can see why this is a separate sheet of paper. You don't want to use the one on your book. I'm going to sneak this back in close. I need to find day 185, July 4th. Are you with me? Okay. Discount ends on July 4th. Okay. The net is due 30 days from the invoice date. So I take 175 and I add 30. Okay. And what do I get? How many? 205 is when the net is due. Terrible sloppy writer. So I need to go back to the table of days. And again, I have many of these. You'll find yourself writing all over them. And find 205. Day 205 is July 24th. Is that making sense? July 24th. After this, there's a penalty. So if you look at this chart that we've made, mine's very sloppy, we start counting at the invoice date. The invoice date was June 24th. That is day 175. We were told we'd get a 3% discount for 10 days. So there's 0 and there's 10. This is day 11. The net is due 30 days from the invoice date, so that's through day 30. So discount ends on day 185. Net is due on day 205. Any day after July 24th, you're going to pay some sort of a penalty. We're not going to be dealing with penalties, but if we were, we would just tack a penalty on to, some sort of a late payment charge. I'm sure you're familiar with that with credit cards and things, that if you don't pay by the date it's due. But the difference with credit cards is we don't get any kind of a discount if we pay early. If you'd get a bill and get a chance to discount that because you paid it right on time, you wouldn't get any kind of a bonus. But businesses, if they have the extra cash, will often take advantage of cash discounts. And where are we going to find cash discounts? On invoices. So back to problem number 1. We're going to answer these questions. Find the date the discount ends. The day the discount ends is July 4th. Determine the date the net is due, July 24th. Calculate the amount that should be paid on June 30th. If I were to look at my chart and find out when June 30th is, June 30th is in this area right here. So June 30th would be in the discount period. So I would be able to take a 3% discount from my invoice before I paid it. So you can do whatever calculation you do to come up with that. I kind of like 3 is to 100, proportionally the same as what discount is to. My invoice was 3562. That would come up with how much I save, yes? How much do I save?
106.86.
And how much would I then pay?
3,455.14.
Another way that you could do that one, and I'm going to come onto my sheet of paper because I did it this way on my notes when I was working at home, is I could have come to old change new, realized that the old amount was 3,562. The change was 3%, so the new would be what? And go directly to that by setting up that proportion. And Christine probably wants to take something different and do it. What do you want to do, Christine?
This is fine.
This one's fine? You see other ways of doing it though, right? What would you have done? Tell me.
I would have done this because that's what I'm doing now.
Okay. She said, I'm buying into the program. But before that, you had techniques that you would have maybe taken 0.03 or 0.97, right? I know. And there's nothing the matter with the way you were doing things. It's just that it didn't work every time. It didn't work every time, that's right. So setting it up with either old, change, new probably is the quickest way to work every time. Huh? Oh, okay. New problem then. Here we go. We're going to do the next one. And again, these are ordinary dating. The difference in all of these different dating techniques is when you start counting. The one that says EOM, end of month, doesn't start counting until the end of the month. The ROG, receipt of goods, doesn't start counting until the receipt of goods. Ordinary dating, if nothing is told, starts counting at the invoice date. All of these are going to work the same. You just need to memorize or make it make sense. When do we start counting? So an invoice in the amount of $729.75 comes to your desk. It is ordinary dating. The terms of the invoice are 3/10/220, and the invoice is dated December 16th. Oh, we made this one complicated for you. It goes over the end of the year. We've got double discounts. What this actually says is you have a 3% discount for 10 days from the date of the invoice, and you have a 2% discount for 20 days from the date of the invoice. That is not 20 days from the end of this discount. I told you this was tedious, right? We're always going to start counting at the invoice date. So here's what I see as my picture. I see a 3% discount for 10 days and a 2% discount that ends on the 20th day, which means that 2% discount really only lasts for 10 days. It's not a 20-day discount. Are you with me? Because they start counting went from the very beginning. So let's look at what I've done here. We'll work on it together. I'm going to try to zoom in on this one. I set up my number line, and it looks like this. December 16th is when I received my invoice. I look at my chart, and what is the day of December 16? And does everyone find 350 on there? Okay. We're not going to mess with this being a leap year at this point. Okay. I've got a 3% discount for 10 days. So 10 days later is day 360. What day is day 360? December 26th. So you could take a 3% discount up through December 26th. 2% discount ends 20 days after the invoice. The date that the 2% discount ends is day 370, because that would be 350 plus 20, 370. How many days are in a year? We've gone over the first of the year, so at that point we need to subtract 365 and say that's day 5. Okay? I know, I told you, tedious, tedious. Look at your table of days. What day is day 5? Going back to the new year. Do you see that's January 5th? I took 350 plus this 20, a 2% discount for 20 days, and you don't add it on to the end of the 3% discount. You add it from the very beginning of the invoice date. I know.
So I gotta subtract 365 from the 370.
To come up with day 5, because we've gone past the new year. So from January 5th on, we have no discount. If no net is put on the sheet, the net that is implied is 20 days after the last discount. And that's true on all these. So for 20 more days, we would have no discount up to day 25. The net is due then on January 25th, and then you'd be in the penalty period after that. This really implies N/40, which is 40 days. The net is due 40 days from the invoice date, because it's 20 days past when the last invoice. I know. Oh, how much would be paid on January 14th? Whoops.
Oh, right.
How much would be paid on January January 14th? January 14 is between January 5th and January 25th. You're right. No discount. $729.75. You're past any discount period. Discounts are gone. That's right. You've waited too long to take advantage of any of the cash discounts. When is the net due? The net due is January 25th. It is due 20 days following the last discount. The last discount ended on January 5th. January 25th is when the amount is due. After that, you'd be in the penalty period. Again, we're not going to do penalties. There are some examples of penalties in the book, and if you were wanting that amount, you'd have to add a penalty on. Yeah?
What is a penalty?
A penalty generally is like maybe a 2% add-on for not paying on time.
But isn't it like a choice of whether you want to go through these people or not?
Well, you've already purchased from them.
All right.
You've ordered the information, you've ordered the supplies or whatever from them, they've invoiced you. So we're not making choices anymore. We made our choice. And you're thinking trade discounts and cash discounts, and that's the difference. We've ordered. Now our choice is pay early, get a discount, pay in the normal period of time, and if we pay after that, pay a penalty. And generally the penalty is going to be like 1.5% or 2% for a late payment. Okay, one more. Let's see how we do here. An invoice is dated April 21st with additional information that says as of May 1st. When it says as of May 1st, it says start counting on May 1st. Are you with me? I know. If the terms are 3/10, we're seeing that as a 3% discount for 10 days. When is the date the discount ends? Well, what I'm going to do is realize that my invoice actually was written on April the 21st, but the as of says start counting on May 1st. The trick with all of these is to figure out when do you start counting. If it's ordinary dating, you start counting at the invoice date. When it says as of, then you start counting there. May 1st is day 1. You get a 3% discount for 10 days. Then we know that after the discount ends, we have a 20-day period that the net is due by the end of, and after that, you're in the penalty. So it says, when does the discount end? 10 days after May 1st. What day is that going to be? May 11th. That's right. Ready for another one? Sure, bring them on. We've kind of got the process. The key really is, when do we start counting? All these work the same, with the key ingredient to success being, when do we start counting? Next problem. Let me find a clean sheet of paper to cover some of this up with. I feel like my little desk here is a real mess today. Let's see. Different kind of count of notation says end of month. You know you're dealing with the end of month whenever you see EOM or PROX. Both of those say start counting at the end of the month. So I send you an invoice, and you're welcome to start counting at the end of the month. Now we have to have some exceptions to make it, of course, extremely confusing. When using this type of dating, yes, the important date, again, is the date of the invoice, yes, because the net is due 20 days after, and the net is due 20 days after the discount ends. But we look at the invoice date, but we start counting at the end of the month from the invoice date. Okay, let's try one of these. Invoice is dated March 16th. The terms are 3/10 EOM. What that says is don't start counting on March 16th. That would be ordinary dating when nothing is noted. Instead, this says start counting at the end of the month. What month am I in? March. Well, the counting would start the last day in March. What's the last day in March? 31st of March, yes. The goods are received on April 1st. Guess what? We're throwing that in to confuse you. It doesn't matter. The only time it matters is on receipt of goods. Again, this is really tedious, and I know it. So here's what's happening. It says, when does the discount end? I know that I received my invoice on March 16th, but it said EOM. So March 31st is when I start counting. I just ignore that time before that. March 31st is day 1. For 10 days, I get a 3% discount, which March 31st is what day of the year? 90. Day 100 is when the discount ends, because 90 plus 10 is 100. So I look on my table of days. April 10th would be the date that the discount ends. When is the net due? If it doesn't tell you when it's due 20 days after the discount ends. So I add another 20 days in there and say that's day 120. The discount ends on April the 10th. The net is due on April the 30th. It's not as bad once you get started, is it? No, it seems very confusing. After April 30th, you're in the penalty period. Okay. Oh, good. Just when we were feeling good, now we've got to have something else happen. And you know this will be the one that's on the test, don't you? Okay, I just thought I'd throw that one out for you. The cutoff date for end of month is the 25th of the month. Any invoice dated after the 25th of the month, so the 26th, 27th, 28th, you go to the end of the following month. Oh, I know. Details, details. Okay, if your invoice date is after the 25th of the month, the 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, depending on the month, 30, 31, then you can go to the end of the following month. All right, here we go. Again, it's where do you start counting? An invoice is dated May 30th. Is May 30th after? Okay. And it's dated the 30th with terms 2/10 EOM. The goods are received on June 19th. We don't care about when the goods are received because we're not dealing with receipt of goods, right? We're dealing with end of month. Normally, we would start the end of May counting, but we receive this after the 25th, so instead we're going to start counting on the end of June. What's the last day in June? Okay, so we get our chart going, and it looks like this. Let me zoom in closer. It says right here, I received my invoice on May 30th, but I don't care. The goods are received on June 19th, but I don't care. When I'm going to start counting is at the end of the following month, which is day 181. That's right. I get a 2% discount for 10 days. My discount ends on day 191, which is July 10th. When is the net due? 20 days later on day, well, that'd be day 211, which is July 20th. After July 20th, I owe a penalty. It's July 30th?
Yeah, because
I believe you.
discount.
I told you. I work in the evenings when I'm tired getting these ready. Super.
Okay, if it's 20 days past. I can't see what. Is it 10 days from July 10th? Or is it 20 days from July 10th?
It's 20 days. That's what I'm saying. I did that one wrong. Okay. 2% discount for 10 days and a 20-day period after that for the net to be due. Is that all right? Okay. Guess when we start counting on receipt of goods? When we receive the goods, right. We're going to try to get through this one real quickly, and we'll probably need to finish up some of this. We've got just a couple of minutes left here in this section. But you know that you are using receipt of goods when you see ROG if everything is taken from the date the goods are actually received. As with end-of-month dating, if it doesn't tell you the net is due 20 days after the discount ends. Let's go. An invoice is dated August the 5th. The terms are 310 ROG. The goods are received September 19th. When do we start counting? September 19th. That's right. We don't care about the invoice date with this one. So here we go. The key with this one is when do we start counting? We don't care about the invoice date. We start counting on the receipt of goods, day 262. It's a 3% discount for 10 days. So the discount ends on day 272. And the net is due on day 292. You go to your table of days and realize that September the 29th is when the discount ends. October the 19th is when the net is due. Okay, we will do extra dating when we get together next time. And you should be able to do everything on your homework except that extra dating. We'll finish that up. We are going to turn off the tapes, and I'll see if anybody's got any questions.